Welcome to Fabled Charisma. My name is Wyatt, and today we are going to talk about the 5 problems with Dungeons and Dragons. Now, these are my opinion. Take that with a grain of salt, and they are purely based off of my experiences playing Dungeons and Dragons for the last 11 or so years. Number 1 is going to be combat is slow. It's a turn-based role-playing game. When you take your turn, you hit or you miss, and then it's the next person's turn, and then the next person's turn, and then the next person's turn. So you have to consider how many people do you want to play with. I've been at a D&D table that had 11 players. 11 players. When I was at this table, I would take my turn, I would miss, and I'm not kidding when I say this, it took me
1 hour.
to get all the way back to my turn. 2 bad tables. So when you're joining a Dungeons & Dragons table, you might have a bad DM, or a bad player. A bad DM style. They don't want to use elements from backstory. They railroad campaigns. They don't allow players to choose what they want to do. The DM kind of just forces them down a path. For players, now a bad player could be somebody who wants to hog the limelight, have all the role-playing counters, get all of the good items. Could be players who don't pay attention often. They're on their phones, side conversations. This is why I want to mention, if you're going to join a table like this, just make sure there's a good communication basis. So if there is a problem at the table, everybody can talk about it and work their way through that. The third problem with Dungeons & Dragons, schedule conflicts. This one might be the bane of all TTRPGs, but it's infamous for its place in Dungeons & Dragons. It might be difficult for everyone to get together every week to play together for hours on end. Sometimes someone who has to have a last-minute no-show for a campaign can really disrupt the flow of the campaign. It might even have to have the DM cancel the whole session because the DM will plan things around certain characters in different sessions. If that person doesn't show up, they might have to do last-minute rewrites or postpone the whole thing overall. The fourth problem with Dungeons & Dragons, main character syndrome. What is main character syndrome? Main character syndrome can really apply to a DM or to a player, but usually it's the player. If you're ever at a table and you find someone who wants to have all the role-play encounters or wants to have all of the cool moments in a boss fight, main character syndrome can really just be boiled down to somebody at a table whose ego is just too inflated. Their character is a warrior, a war hero, and they want everything to function that way for them. Or players at the table who just won't let you shine because they want to be the one who shines. And the last problem with Dungeons and Dragons for now is a lack of roleplay. So roleplay in Dungeons & Dragons can be a little controversial. Sometimes you might go into a table that is only combat based, which is okay. This problem doesn't really apply to that. But if you're not going into a table that is not only combat based, and roleplay might be expected or encouraged, players don't know how to roleplay, or the DM might not know how to initiate it, or it might not be able to flow comfortably. The best way to kind of overcome roleplay issues in Dungeons & Dragons, or any TTRPG really, is a few things. One is a consent sheet. A consent sheet is really just a form you fill out with things you're comfortable with and things you're not comfortable with. That way everybody at the table knows what lines they cannot cross. If you're going to roleplay in a campaign, this should be required. 2, communication. If you want to roleplay more or you want to roleplay less, communicate that with your peers, especially your DM. 3, discussion topics. Get a little notepad and just write down things you want to talk about in that roleplay. It could be stuff from your backstory. It could be things you and your party have experienced up to this point that you guys want to talk about and recap over. Or maybe you want to have a big emotional depth moment with another player. Maybe they did something a few sessions back that you didn't quite agree with and you want to confront them about it. Roleplay really just adds a lot of substance to a D&D campaign. Without roleplay, D&D campaigns kind of wither out and kind of lose their interesting factors once the first 10 or so sessions have passed. You can use roleplay sessions to build a character arc or tell a story through your character, one of triumph or overcoming insecurities. These things really just build the base element of what a good Dungeons & Dragons campaign should be, is great roleplay, and even better communication with your party. If you've made it this far in the video, first of all, I would like to thank you. And if you have the time, please hit that subscribe button, leave us a like, and maybe comment on something you've seen in D&D, a problem you might have witnessed. Thank you for watching. We will see you in the next adventure. Till then, bye.